Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of this sharing with all of you. Today's topic will be very interesting. I'll be talking about this old saying: when you're buying a property, you must always buy in the best location. So does this saying still holds true in today's context? I think this is something that is in everyone's mind, especially recently. It's all over the news, right? You have very, very good locations next to the MRT station, on top of the MRT station, integrated concepts with prices hitting record prices at the outskirts of the city. So I thought I would just touch on this because from what I'm seeing, it's quite weird with how prices are going. And there's also a lot of changes in the market, which I will talk about. So the definition of this location changes over time. And sometimes what is relevant in the past may not be relevant now. So these are some of the things that I'll be covering. All right, let me bring up the slides immediately. Okay, so again, this is something very raw, candid, unedited, just very frank sharing that I'm giving. But really, I've done a lot of research. It's also based on my experience to put this up. You're definitely going to be benefited from this sharing. I hope you stay true with me. And if you're interested in other interesting contents, you can check out my other videos, and also you can just hit the subscribe buttons for future sharings too, so that you'll be kept notified. All right. Okay, location. So the key question over here is, how do you define a good location, right? Is it always right smack in the city center, next to the financial district, on top of the MRT station, next to an interchange, or next to area of growth? So these are the question that I will be answering. And again, at the back of your head, it's always good to know that things that are 20, 30 years ago that may be relevant then might not be relevant in today's context, because you've seen how technology, how even COVID has changed our lives so drastically over the last 1 year or so. So in the last 5 to 10 years, even the climate for investments in properties has already changed in Singapore. So we have to keep track of it. We have to move ahead to keep track of, to keep abreast with these changes. All right. So first up, before I touch on all the other information on location, thought I'll just bring up this chart again. I previously did some analysis on this chart in my other sharings, and it's just it's good to give you the perspective of what's really happening in the market. Okay, so this is the private property market. It's not HDB, and it's been differentiated into 3 line graphs over here. This will be the core central region. Core central region will be the city center. You look at your Orchard, your CBD location. Your rest of core region will be like your Queenstown, your Bishan, your Marine Parade, in the Bermuda Triangle, like just outside the city center, some of these RCR location. And then your OCR will be like your Tampines, your Ang Mo Kios, your Clementis. All right, from there stretches outwards. So I'm not going to go very deep into the reasons for the up and down. So, but in general, you will actually realize that during this COVID period, unlike CCR and RCR, you realize that OCR actually remains very, very stable. In fact, it even registered an increase during that period of time. And this also holds true even back in 2007, during the global financial crisis. Obviously, the drop back then was more drastic because you don't have all these cooling measures in place that was already that is protecting the market now, all the TDSR, the EBSD. So it was quite speculative back then. But even then, you realize that the market over there, the outside core region, are more resilient. So actually, this pattern holds true. If you look through this entire chart, it actually represents the entire Singapore. It's very different from, let's say, if you're investing in other countries, you realize that, okay, maybe in London, the zone 3, the zone 4 may not be doing as good as the zone 1 and 2. But in general, first thing when you're looking at this chart, yes, okay, the outside core is very, very resilient. It's doing very well in this one of the worst crises of our time. And the other thing also, it's everybody started from a low point throughout the entire Singapore, and then slowly they all registered an increase, uptrend in general, whether it's for the core central region, or whether it's for the rest of core or the outside core. All right, so this is a pattern that's been happening since 2005, based on this chart. So it's already happening, okay, in the sense that buying a very, very prime location might not always work if you register a drop, or if you compare with outside area, if you're buying at a lower PSF in general, but also registering an increase. Right, and in fact, you're putting in less down payment because the purchase price is lesser. Your risk is also lesser. Okay, so is this something to take note? I just show you the chart to show you that it's actually happening for all the, in fact, for the last more than 10 years already. Okay, so buying into a location now may not be that relevant. Maybe I'll just put this message across right at the start because of this big term called decentralization. I think you have probably heard of it somewhere in the newspaper among agents and things like that. But decentralization, I have to say, is playing a very big part in how property market is evolving. So these words literally entails spreading from the center, being too concentrated in the city center, and then spreading it outwards to the rest of Singapore. This is decentralized. Okay, so what does decentralization means? Okay, decentralization is a main term. So under decentralization, you realize that URA has many sub-objectives that they want to achieve, right? And this can be explained over here. I took this from the URA Designing City, one of their booklet. I think it explains very well. Firstly, in this map, how moving from the CBD out to north, to the east, and to the west. Okay, it comes along with the goal of creating sustainable growth. Sustainable growth is a very interesting term. First thing, you talk about sustainability, especially in a city-state like Singapore, when there's not much land. You really want to make use of every inch of land in Singapore to create growth in that sense, right? You don't want to be just building for the sake of building. It must be building for the very right objective to get the most effectiveness, the most productivity out of it. And it has to be sustainable. Why? Because of the current climate situation, higher sea level, global warming in general. So a very simple understanding is if you have too much building, too much high-rise building, too much concrete in the CBD, for example, the temperature would rise even more. You feel more heated up. In fact, when there's flash flood, which is very common nowadays because of the weather situation, it will flood more easily in built-up area because there's nowhere for water to flow unless you have a very, very, very good drainage system, right? Because unless there is good natural, maybe some kind of plants or tree, which Singapore is doing very well, the water can be absorbed nicely into the ground separately. So this is talking about sustainability. It's about really building a sustainable growth. And then you talk about growth per se. It's about achieving productivity and efficiency, which Singapore has been trying to achieve in the last 5 to 10 years. How can you go about doing it? So what actually is increasing productivity? In layman term, for example, right now, if I have an hour per day to complete one task, can I possibly complete 1.5 tasks or maybe even 2 tasks in the future? If I'm able to do that, I'm actually increasing my productivity. So increasing productivity it will comes together with definitely having a very good transport system, right? So you see now that the transport network, it's definitely more established than before. We have so many lines, literally almost like 70 to 80% of our homes are 5 to 10 minutes walk to an MRT station. And this is the LTA score, all right? And you want to do that because you want to reduce, I think, mainly the commuting time. Firstly, I think we are very blessed to be in Singapore because our traffic system, our infrastructures are very good. We seldom have jams like in Jakarta or even like in Bangkok. The jams are so prevalent. So jams reduces productivity because instead of getting to work in 30 minutes, somehow you realize you need 1 hour to get to work. So by having a very good infrastructure, having a good network or this transport network, it will provide better productivity, right? But at the same time, right, you see this chart is moving towards the north, the east, and the west, by spreading the growth around, because we don't want the growth to be just concentrated in the city center. Is also like an equitable kind of distribution of growth. You don't want only the people staying down here to benefit, like those that can afford to stay right at the city center. Then you have lesser commuting time, it's easier for you, lesser traffic, so you benefit the most. So they want to spread it outwards. And how you want to do is this thing called work, live, and play. Work, live, and play at every part of Singapore. So you will have elements whereby in the west, the north, the east, you have different regional centers, you have different business nodes. You also have a very nice park. You also have integrated concept like shopping centers. You have your Jam, in Jam and Westgate in the west, and then like you have your Jewel in the east. So you need not really come to Orchard to really shop. Right, and then your live element, you have a lot of parks nowadays. You've got park connectors. Just went to the Changi Jurassic, the Changi Jurassic Mall, park connector all the way at the airport side, and then you have your Jurong Lake district in the west. So everywhere, whether you're staying the west or east or north, there's work for you. You can just go straight to work in much less time as compared to commuting to the city center. And then you have just to be very, very self-sufficient in every part of Singapore. So that is what decentralization is all about. Yeah, so very, very comprehensive, which I just explained. Okay. So this map, as you can see, actually, decentralization started quite some time ago. In fact, if you look at the concept map, I think it was already started in the early 2000s, in the 2001 concept planning. It's a very simple illustration from UI over here. That means from the city center, and then you have all these regional centers in the north, west, and east, and also sub-regional centers in the middle, right? Your Novena private, all the private hospitals, your Paya Lebar Central, your One North Tech Industry. Okay, and then it's slowly established into this recent map, which shows even more detail where all the business park, the business nodes, the regional centers are. So this comes all together when you hear people talk about this Paya Lebar airbase moving, right? They're moving all the way to the Changi side. So the air hub is concentrated at the east, and then you have your shipping, your Tuas side moving to the west. All right, that's where your port is moving for the greater southern waterfront. This is very, very strategic planning from the URA people. I think they're doing a superb job, right? But that said, you also have your Woodlands Regional Center, and the connectivity towards Johor, and then these two areas are now very big. Your Sungai Gadot, your Agri-Food Innovation District, because of the pandemic, you have to be very self-sufficient, but we also don't have enough land. So how can we really grow food very efficiently using technology that's something I believe is going to be a very big thing, because it's really our goal to be self-sufficient. Okay, and then Jurong Lake District. Well, we can't control things that we cannot. So obviously this high-speed railway has not materialized. But that said, the government has already mentioned that it's not going to derail plans for the Jurong Lake District as a second CBD. So it will still continue to grow. I think what's really remarkable is whatever the government has planned as within our control for Singapore, it has always materialized. In fact, it has always been too successful. I use the Punggol housing estate as a good example. Last time it used to be quite a swampy area with no housing at all. When they started with the master plan over there in the middle of 2003, 2008 master plan, and you see the entire area now being summed up by a lot of housing estates. It's very hard to recognize which part of Punggol you're at, because everywhere is just HDBs, right? So that's how successful all this planning by the government has been. Okay, so see, you got all these business nodes over here, which are so very important. I think now the biggest growing sector is the Buona Vista and One North area. That's where you have all your tech, your content creation, you have your biomedical area down there. So it's very big. Then it's also not even stated over here. Kallang Riverside, there's a lot of white sites that they want to develop. Paya Lebar is already developed. You can see it's a integrated thing over there. So a lot of things happening is throughout Singapore. So just from this map, maybe I bring you back to today's main topic about location. How then now do you know like which part of Singapore is a very good location? Is it still in the CBD area that we always associate to? Is it in the Orchard, Novena area? Well, I mean, it looks from this kind of planning that, in fact, it is just every part of Singapore, right? So it's good to really look at location now, I feel, moving forward as Singapore as really as a capital, as a city-state, rather than a specific area in Singapore. Okay, and of course, you have to look at location as probably just one factor. I think this is another important message, important takeaway from today's session. There's so many other factors to look at, of course, including price, your unit, the supply and demand, the transformation plans over there, the facing of the unit, right? There's so many elements. So this everything decentralization has also coincided with how the tenant market is also moving towards. You can see this from the Straits Times in October last year, stated that more expats are actually moving to the heartland areas as packages shrink. So last time we used to have very, very good fatty expat packages. They cover for the housing, even some of them provide cars, international school, they pay for it. International schools are not cheap. A year, you can go up to 50, 60,000 just for one kid. And these are not our subsidized primary and secondary school. They have to pay in full. All right. But moving forward, as their packages shrink, as their packages become personal package rather than the company package, a company lease that they cover for them. Now they have to control their own costs. And you see, when you're buying when you're staying in Singapore, everything is so transparent. You go to your website, you go to the government website, all the data are there. So you probably need not stay in somewhere that really have everything. Because at Singapore, I would say that almost all areas are very transparent. They are already very convenient in that sense. You need not stay in the Orchard area because it's the only place that's convenient. Not really, because now everywhere is very convenient because of our transport system, because of our malls that are all across Singapore already. So this is happening, and there's also this specific movement of international schools that is moving out from the city center all the way out to the outskirts, right? Some examples would be like the Canadian school from Bukit Timah. Now it's all the way at the Lakeside area. Overseas Family School, one of the most sought after schools at the Orchard area, just behind Ngee Ann City, has now moved to the east all the way to the Pasir Ris side. So similar to Singaporeans, we want to be staying next to where our kids are or near to there, so it's very easy for them to commute, right? that's why the experts are moving into this area. Okay. So all these reasons are actually causing the tenant market not to be concentrated in a certain location. So in every location, got your French school in Ang Mo Kio, so you have your American schools at Potong Pasir and Woodlands. So every part of Singapore will also have tenant demand. It's important to take note of it. So this map is the MRT network in year 2002. All right, it's not even the first one, right? The first one was started in, I think, early 1990s, where you don't have this northeast line. Because at the start, there's only the north-south, the red line, and the east-west green line. And the first two lines are above ground. That's how you know that they are the first gen. Right? They are built above ground. But ever since the northeast line started, everything is underground already. Okay. So you can see in 2002, which is not too far off, I'll just say 20 years. This map as compared to later, I'll show you the current network. There's so much difference. Of course, at this point, you look at Singapore and you'll be buying based on location. Of course, there's only a few areas, right, that it's connected, or you say interchange. Dhoby Ghaut, City Hall, Raffles Place, Outram Park in the city center. You don't talk about Tanah Merah and Jurong East. There's only 4 interchanges. It's quite a no-brainer. You have to buy that because all the other areas are not really accessible to the MRT station. That I can agree. But fast forward to now, look at this. And this is not even a complete map. We have our, this shows the latest Thomson East Coast Line, the first and second phase that is under construction. That will be opening at the end of this year and the start of next year. But it doesn't even show you the last phase of the East Coast, the Thomson East Coast Line that connects to Changi, or the Cross Island Line that cuts through, right? And look at the number of interchanges. So how can you be sure which is the right location to look at? So bearing in mind, again, I just reinforce this location is probably just one element that you want to look at, together with all the other elements and factors to get a investment property. All right. So this example that I've taken to show you a prime location need not be always a surefire thing. Okay, so this is OUE Twin Peak, a very nice posh development, swimming pool, tennis court, and it's just located very near to the Orchard area. This is Ngee City, Wisma Atrium, Mandarin Gallery is all over here, all within 5 minutes walk. Okay, so is it a surefire thing that you earn money? Don't talk about earning money, or at least don't lose any money. Not really. There are only 2 profitable transactions, around a handful, 2 to 3, but there are 25 unprofitable transactions, right? As you can see over here. And remarkably, right, it was one that lost over $1 million. They bought at 2008 PSF, and then they now sold at 2001 PSF. I think some of these RCR locations has already achieved that price. A loss of $1 million. What's more remarkable is this 570 square feet unit, probably a one-on-one study that lost more than 500,000. Okay, I think that's quite scary. I mean, if you're buying a 1-bedroom and you're losing so much, because they bought at 3004 PSF and then sold at 2005. So of course, I won't go into all the detail to analyze why this particular development it's losing so much money. I just want to just show you in general, there's more to look at just instead of just looking at buying into a certain location. There's so many elements. Okay, so this one, it's Holland Village Residences. I'll show you a current example. There's no resale transaction yet. I'm just sharing with you, these are what people are buying into. This is very near to Holland V, built by Far East. Very nice marketing, very nice development. Looks very posh, right? But people are really paying 11 million, 3003 PSF for such a big size unit. That's why it's 11 million. Generally, all 3000 PSF or high 2000 PSF, even for the smaller units, they're paying a quantum of 1.4 million. I mean, Holland V, everybody wants to buy there, but So this one, we haven't reached the resale stage. I'm just saying all these things because I don't know if they are able to sell a 1-bedroom next time at 1.5 or 1.6 to make a profit, even though they're at Holland V, because their entry looks a bit high just from the price side. I mean, the location is fantastic, but from the price side, I believe there are many other options out there. So this is something that's happening because there's a lot of people out there, you know, we're still entrenched in our certain beliefs, or that things work in the past, they will always work now, especially if they are quite elderly, they have some experience in the market. But I just want to emphasize, especially using the Twin Peaks example, actually there are more out there. Is what is relevant in the past may not be relevant now because things changes so fast. We really have to understand all these macro and micro things that's happening in the market. And with decentralization, you realize decentralization was way before COVID situation. And the COVID situation actually sped up the process of it. It makes working remotely an important thing. And actually, it also proved that decentralization is the right thing to, is the right thing altogether. If we have not started doing all these things, probably our outskirts area might not be that nice to work in. We may not be feeling very nice working at home in a particular outskirt area, but because of decentralization, everything makes sense right now. Okay, so these are the things that's changing very rapidly. I hope you understand this. Okay, lastly, another example, this is at the Beauty World area. You have this is the Beauty World station, and this is Link, a freehold development, very, very small development. It's sold, in fact, it sold out in one day, one or 2 days. I saw first day 98% of the units were sold. They're also banking on the big transformation in this area. But if you look at the prices achieved over here, this over 2004 PSF, a small unit of 400 square feet. Will it be a winner future? It might be, but I'm just showing you people are paying this amount of money. But I feel that actually there are other better options out in the market. And probably sometimes we are too myopic to be just buying next to the MRT station. Okay, and then paying such a high price. So yes, it comes to the end of my presentation today. I hope you've benefited to clear some misconception out there. As a last thing for you all to live with, just remember that location is just one factor, one element that you want to assess. There are so many other elements involved when you're making investment property. So be sure to assess all of it. All right, thank you. And for the next session, I thought I'll just share a glimpse of it. I'll be sharing how you can make rather up to 400,000, I think even up to 500,000 for properties just in the last 7 months. If you have bought something the last 7 to 8 months, you made that amount of money. So I'll be sharing some of these properties because a lot of people are saying some properties can't really make money into this context, but not really. So if you want to be notified when the video is up, probably next week or the week after, just subscribe to my channel. All right, thank you, and I'll see you around.